Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're exploring a story that reminds us how fragile the lives we build can be. It's often not the loud disasters that break us, but the quiet whispers, the slow erosion of trust, that can unravel everything we thought was solid. Join us for a story about betrayal, resilience, and the difficult journey of rebuilding a life from the ground up. It's often not the disasters that undo us, but the whispers, the quiet unraveling of trust, thread by invisible thread, until the whole life we thought was solid comes apart in our hands. In the quiet suburbs of Seattle, where craftsman-style homes dotted the tree-lined avenues, Claire Jensen's life had always followed a predictable rhythm. Every morning, she'd wake before sunrise, prepare lunches for her children, Lily and Ethan, aged 9 and 7, and ensure Jordan's freshly ironed shirt hung ready for another day at his architecture firm. This particular Tuesday in October seemed no different. As she moved through her routine, the soft autumn light filtered through the kitchen windows while she packed turkey sandwiches and apple slices. But sometimes the universe conspires to shatter even our most carefully constructed worlds. The shift was subtle at first. A silence that lingered half a second too long when he kissed her goodbye. A faint trace of cologne she didn't recognize clinging to his jacket. Claire had been brushing these signs aside, filing them under stress or fatigue. But this time, the universe didn't whisper. It screamed in the most ordinary moments. The first sign came through a misplaced receipt that fluttered from Jordan's jacket pocket as Claire hung it in the laundry room. La Papillon, an upscale French bistro downtown. $287.42 for dinner last Thursday. The same Thursday Jordan had claimed to be working late on the Westfield Tower project. She blinked, reading the numbers again and again, as if willing them to change. Her hands trembled as she stared at the slip of paper, recalling how he'd called to apologize, his voice tired and distracted. "Hey babe, I'm slammed. Don't wait up," he had said. She remembered how his voice had sounded distant, not just in space but in emotion, like he was already somewhere else with someone else. "Mommy, can you help me with my science project?" Lily's voice pierced her thoughts, jolting her back to the present. Claire quickly tucked the receipt into her pocket, forcing a smile. "Of course, sweetie. Let me just finish with these clothes." Throughout the day, that receipt burned in her pocket like a hot coal. She tried to focus on helping Lily build her solar system model, on reviewing Ethan's spelling words, on the dozens of other tasks that filled her role as a stay-at-home mom. But her mind kept circling back to that number, $287.42. Too much for a business dinner. Too intimate for a casual meeting. What kind of work meeting ended with creme brulee and a wine list longer than a legal contract? When Jordan didn't respond to her texts that afternoon, the knot in her stomach tightened. By evening, as she served the kids their dinner chicken pot pie, Jordan's favorite, his usual chair remained conspicuously empty. No call, no message, just silence. "Where's Daddy?" Ethan asked, pushing peas around his plate. "Working late, honey. Important project." The lies came easier now, practiced over months of growing distance and endless late nights at the office. She hated how natural the deception felt on her tongue, how quickly she was becoming fluent in the language of denial. How long had she been making excuses for him? After tucking the kids into bed, Claire sat alone in the dim kitchen, the receipt now crumpled from countless readings. Her laptop glowed softly as she logged into their joint bank account, something she hadn't done in months, having trusted Jordan to handle their finances while she managed the home. She hesitated before typing in the password, as if part of her already knew what she'd find and was silently pleading not to be right. The truth spilled across the screen in neat rows of transactions. Jewelry stores, hotel bookings, restaurants she'd never heard of. Each line was a betrayal dressed in Times New Roman, proof that the man she loved had built an entire second life without her. The front door clicked open at 11:42 p.m. Jordan's footsteps, usually confident and deliberate, seemed hesitant. Claire remained seated, her back to the entrance, as he paused in the doorway. "We need to talk," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. "Yes, we do." His response carried a finality that made her heart stutter. When she turned to face him, The stranger standing in her kitchen barely resembled the man she had married 12 years ago. His collar was askew, his usually perfect hair disheveled, and his eyes, those warm hazel eyes that had once looked at her with such tenderness, now held a distant, almost clinical expression. His mouth twitched, like he was trying to summon guilt, but couldn't quite remember what it felt like. "I'm leaving, Claire." 3 words. 12 years of marriage, 2 children, countless shared dreams. All reduced to 3 simple words. "Her name is Isabel," he continued, as if discussing a business transaction. "She's pregnant." The room tilted sideways. Claire gripped the kitchen counter, her knuckles white against the cool granite. "Pregnant?" she repeated, the word foreign and bitter on her tongue. Her breath caught in her throat, and for a moment, she wondered if this was what drowning felt like, not chaos, but stillness so loud it shattered everything. "I've already spoken to my lawyer. You'll be taken care of course. The house, child support, alimony. Everything will be handled fairly." Fairly. As if anything about this could ever be fair. "How long?" The question scraped past her throat, jagged and raw. 8 months. He had the decency to look away. "It wasn't planned, Claire. It just happened." 8 months. That meant the lie hadn't started recently. It had been festering beneath their shared bed, beside her folded laundry, in the smiles he gave her children while he crafted a second life in the shadows. 8 months. While she'd been planning their anniversary dinner, while she'd been helping Lily through her first grade reading struggles, while she'd been building their life, he'd been building another. "Get out." The words emerged as a whisper, then grew stronger. "Get out. Jordan, please. Let's discuss this rationally." Rationally? A harsh laugh escaped her. "You want rational? Here's rational. You have 30 minutes to pack what you need and leave. The rest can wait until the lawyers sort it out." 30 minutes, Jordan. Starting now. Her voice didn't shake. Not even a little, but inside, everything screamed. He opened his mouth to argue, then seemed to think better of it. Without another word, he turned and headed upstairs. Claire listened to his footsteps overhead, the sound of drawers opening and closing, the soft thud of a suitcase being filled. With every movement, she felt a piece of her former life being scraped away, leaving behind only silence and betrayal. Each noise hammered another nail into the coffin of her marriage. 28 minutes later, Jordan stood at the front door, suitcase in hand. "I never meant to hurt you," he said softly. Claire stared at him. This man she'd loved for so long, this stranger who had destroyed her world. "You didn't mean to hurt me? You gave up the right to care about my feelings the moment you started your new family while pretending to still be part of ours." The door closed behind him with a gentle click, a sound far too soft for the weight of what had just happened. Claire stood in the foyer, listening to his car start, the crunch of tires on the driveway, the fading sound of the engine as he drove away from their life together. It was such a normal sound, a husband leaving in the night, and yet it marked the death of everything she had believed in. Only when silence settled fully over the house did she allow herself to slide down the wall, her body shaking with silent sobs. She didn't scream. She didn't break anything. She simply folded in on herself, like paper soaked in rain, fragile and shapeless. Upstairs, she could hear Lily's small feet padding across the floor. "Mommy?" Her daughter's voice drifted down. "Is everything okay?" Claire quickly wiped her eyes, drawing in a deep breath. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Go back to bed." But nothing was fine. Her world had just imploded, leaving her alone with 2 children, a mortgage, and the shattered remains of her self-worth. The air felt heavier now, as if the house itself understood that something had cracked irreparably inside its walls. As she sat there in the dim foyer, memories of the past 12 years flickered through her mind like a bitter slideshow. The college degree she'd abandoned to support Jordan's career, the friends she'd lost touch with, the dreams she'd shelved. There had been a version of herself once, full of possibility. She missed that woman more than she missed him. Tomorrow she would have to tell her children their father had left. Tomorrow she would have to figure out how to move forward. Tomorrow she would have to be strong. But strength could wait. Tonight was for mourning, for breathing through the ache, and admitting she wasn't okay. But tonight, in the quiet darkness of her broken home, Claire Jensen allowed herself to grieve for the life she thought she had, and for the woman she'd lost along the way. As the first light of dawn began to creep through the kitchen window, Claire finally stood up. Her legs were stiff, her eyes swollen, but something else stirred within her. A spark of determination, a flicker of defiance. She walked into the kitchen and opened her laptop. This time, she navigated to the University of Washington website. Her cursor hovered over the Apply Now button for a long, trembling moment. Then she clicked. It wasn't just an application. It was a declaration. It was time to reclaim the woman she'd put on hold for far too long. 3 months after Jordan's departure, Claire sat in her first college lecture in over a decade. Her notebook lay open but untouched. Around her, students barely older than 20 tapped away on sleek laptops. Claire struggled to focus on the professor's discussion of business economics. Her mind kept drifting. To Ethan's tears that morning, missing his dad. To Lily's increasingly quiet breakfasts. To the bills piling up and the resume she hadn't updated in years. The familiar buzz of her phone made her stomach clench. Another message from Jordan's lawyer about adjusting the custody schedule. She silenced it without looking, forcing her attention back to the lecture. She had fought too hard for this chance. She wasn't going to let Jordan derail her again. And that's why we look at market equilibrium. Professor Hendriss's voice began to fade as Claire's phone buzzed again, this time with her babysitter's number flashing on the screen. Miss Jensen. The professor's voice cut through her rising panic. Is everything all right? 20 pairs of eyes turned toward her. Claire felt her face flush as she quickly gathered her belongings. I'm sorry, I have to go. It's my children. Her hands trembled as she stuffed her notebook into her bag, the judgment she imagined in every glance weighing heavier than the textbooks she carried. The drive to Ethan's elementary school felt endless. Her 7-year-old son had thrown up in class and now sat pale and miserable in the nurse's office. His face was flushed, his eyes glossy with tears. Claire knelt beside him, brushing damp hair from his forehead, whispering comfort while her heart raced with guilt. Lily would need to be picked up from her school in less than an hour. The carefully constructed schedule of Claire's new life was already unraveling, and it wasn't even noon. Mommy, I don't feel good. Ethan whimpered from the back seat. I know, baby. We'll be home soon. Claire checked the rearview mirror, noticing the dark circles under her own eyes. She looked older than 35, worn down by too many battles fought alone. How long could she keep this up? Her phone rang through the car's Bluetooth. Jordan's name appeared on the dashboard display. Not now, she muttered, declining the call. The last thing she needed was another lecture about how her return to college was disrupting the kids' stability. After settling Ethan in with soup and cartoons, Claire opened her laptop to review the lecture she'd missed. The screen glowed with academic slides she couldn't absorb, her mind too cluttered with survival math. The sight of her empty bank account made her wince. Jordan's first alimony payment wasn't due for another week, and her part-time virtual assistant job barely covered groceries. The weight of it all, single parenthood, financial stress, academic pressure, pressed down on her chest until she could barely breathe. For a moment, she just stared at the ceiling, blinking back tears, wondering how much longer she could pretend she wasn't drowning. The chime of the doorbell startled her. On the doorstep stood an impeccably dressed man in his early 40s. His dark hair, streaked with silver, and tailored suit suggested corporate success. Mrs. Jensen? His voice carried a gentle authority. I'm Lucas Anderson. I believe you've been doing some virtual assistant work for my company? Claire's heart sank. Had she made a mistake in the reports she'd submitted? Mr. Anderson, please call me Lucas. His smile reached his eyes, creating subtle creases at the corners. I was reviewing your work on our latest project, and I have to say your attention to detail is impressive, especially the suggestions you included about streamlining our documentation process. Relief rushed through her. Oh, thank you. I just thought. A crash from inside interrupted her, followed by Ethan's crying. "I'm so sorry. My son is sick. And Mommy." Ethan's voice carried a sharp note of distress that had her turning instantly. "Please excuse me for a moment," she apologized, rushing inside. She found Ethan hunched over, his soup bowl knocked to the floor, tears streaming down his flushed cheeks. "I tried to get water," he hiccuped. "It's okay, sweetie." Claire grabbed some paper towels, aware of Lucas Anderson still standing uncertainly in the doorway. This certainly wasn't how she'd imagined meeting the CEO of her contract employer. Not with her son crying and chicken noodle dripping down the cabinets. Not with yesterday's laundry still piled on the counter. "Let me help," Lucas offered, already rolling up his sleeves. Before she could protest, he was carefully picking up the fallen bowl while she cleaned Ethan. "You really don't have to." "I have a nephew about his age," Lucas said, his movements efficient as he helped clean up the spill. "Trust me, I've seen worse, including a Lego lodged in a toaster. Kids get sick. It happens. What doesn't usually happen is finding virtual assistants who can spot systemic inefficiencies while managing basic data entry." Once Ethan was settled back on the couch with a fresh bowl of soup and cartoons playing softly, Lucas turned to Claire. "That's actually why I'm here," he said. "We have a more permanent position opening up in our operations department. Given the quality of your work, I'd like you to consider applying." Claire blinked, certain she'd misheard. The idea of anyone offering her a promotion while her kid was wrapped in a blanket slurping soup and she had mismatched socks on felt absurd. I'm flattered, but I'm just starting my business degree. I don't have the qualifications. You have practical experience and natural insight. The degree will come. We offer tuition assistance for employees continuing their education." His tone was calm but earnest, and for a second, Claire let herself believe maybe this wasn't a pity offer. Maybe it was real. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed again. Lily's school, of course. Life never stopped long enough for opportunities to land without interruption. "I'm sorry, I have to get my daughter." "Of course." Lucas pulled a business card from his pocket. "Think about it. The role offers flexible hours and remote work options. We value talent, Mrs. Jensen, in whatever package it comes." After he left, Claire stared at the card while waiting in the school pickup line. Lucas Anderson's direct number was written on the back, along with a handwritten note. Real potential shouldn't be wasted. That evening, after both kids were finally asleep, Claire sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by bills, textbooks, and her laptop glowing with the missed lecture. The business card sat before her like a key to a door she hadn't known existed. She picked it up, turned it over, and stared at the handwriting again, noticing how steady it looked compared to her own recent scribbles. Always rushed, always tired. Her phone lit up again, this time with another call from Jordan. This time, she answered. "Claire, we need to talk about this college thing." He started without preamble. "Isabel thinks." "No," Claire interrupted, surprising even herself with the firmness in her voice. It didn't shake. It didn't soften. It was steel wrapped in calm. "What Isabel thinks stopped mattering the day you chose her over our family. I'm doing this, Jordan. For me. And for our children. The kids need stability right now. Not a mother who's barely present because she's playing college student. You know what they need?" Claire's voice remained steady despite her racing heart. "They need to see that when life knocks you down, you get back up. They need to learn it's never too late to chase your dreams. And they need to understand that their mother is more than just someone's wife or ex-wife." Silence filled the line for a moment. All she could hear was her own breathing and the thunderous pounding in her ears. Finally, Jordan spoke softly. "You've changed." "Yes," she agreed. "I have." After hanging up, Claire picked up Lucas Anderson's business card again. The corporate world terrified her. It felt like a country where she didn't speak the language. Suits instead of sweatpants, boardrooms instead of school pickup lines. She had no formal experience, no completed degree, and 2 children depending on her. But as she looked around the kitchen bills stacked beside textbooks, the remnants of dinner on the counter, a schedule scribbled on the whiteboard, She realized something. Terror wasn't new. She'd been terrified every day since Jordan left. And yet, she was still standing. Bruised, maybe, but standing. And that counted. Claire reached for her laptop and began typing an email to Lucas Anderson. Whatever came next, she was done letting fear make her decisions. It was time to find out what she was really capable of. As she wrote, a notification popped up. Her first B+ on a business economics paper. A small victory, but tonight it felt like a sign. Maybe she wasn't just surviving anymore. Maybe she was learning to rebuild, brick by uncertain brick. Maybe, just maybe, she was starting to thrive. 6 months into her new role at Anderson Enterprises, Claire stood before the mirror in her office bathroom, smoothing her blazer and taking a deep breath. The quarterly operations meeting would begin in 20 minutes, and she was presenting her analysis of the company's workflow inefficiencies. Her first major presentation since joining the firm. "You've got this," she whispered to her reflection, remembering the late nights spent preparing while her children slept. Her phone buzzed, a text from Madison, her new friend from the single-parent support group, who was watching Lily and Ethan tonight. "Kids had dinner. Homework's done. They're asking to wait up for you. Okay to let them?" Guilt tugged at Claire's heart, but she pushed it aside. She was showing them something more powerful than a lullaby. She was showing them what perseverance looked like. Tell them one bedtime story, then sleep. Promise I'll peek in when I'm home. As she gathered her presentation materials, Lucas appeared in the office doorway. These days, his presence brought a flutter to her stomach that had nothing to do with professional anxiety. "Ready for the big moment?" he asked, his smile warm, his steel blue eyes steady. "As ready as I'll ever be," Claire replied, clutching her tablet a little closer. "Though I'm still not sure the board will appreciate criticism from the newest employee. They'll appreciate solutions from someone brave enough to offer them." Lucas stepped into her office, closing the door behind him. "Claire, there's something I should tell you before the meeting." Her stomach tightened. "Richard Crawford will be there." The name landed like a cold drop down her spine. Richard Crawford, Lucas's former business partner, recently returned to Seattle after years abroad. Office rumors painted him as brilliant but ruthless. He'd been pushed out of the company years ago under murky, unexplained circumstances. Some said he'd been framed. Others whispered he'd framed someone else. But either way, everyone agreed. Crawford didn't just play to win, he played to destroy. "Why?" she asked, noticing the tension in Lucas's jaw. "He's making a play for a board position," Lucas replied. "Claims he wants to protect his remaining interests in the company." Lucas ran a hand through his hair, a rare display of frustration. It made him look younger, somehow like the weight of legacy had cracked his composure for a second. "Just be prepared. Richard has a talent for finding vulnerabilities and exploiting them." The warning in his voice made her nervous, but it also sparked something else. Defiance. "I've survived worse than a hostile board member." Lucas's expression softened. "Yes, you have." He moved closer, close enough that she could smell the subtle cologne he always wore. For a moment, the world shrank to just the two of them, a quiet before the storm. "Claire, after the meeting, I was wondering if you'd like to—" A knock on the door interrupted them. "Mr. Anderson? They're ready in the boardroom." The moment shattered. Lucas stepped back, professional distance replacing the warmth in his eyes. "Shall we?" The boardroom was intimidating. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Seattle skyline. 12 pairs of eyes watched Claire as she approached the podium, including Richard Crawford's cold, calculating gaze. He looked exactly like his corporate headshot. Distinguished somewhere in his 50s with sharp features and sharper eyes. But the photos hadn't captured the chill in his expression. Like a man always 2 moves ahead in a chess game no one else knew they were playing. Claire launched into her presentation, her voice gaining strength with each sentence as she detailed her findings. Current system bottlenecks, redundant processes, potential solutions. Numbers and charts flowed across the screen behind her, supporting every point. "Impressive analysis," Richard interrupted smoothly. "Tell me, Mrs. Jensen, How does a former housewife develop such insight into corporate operations? A few people inhaled sharply. The tone wasn't just condescending. It was calculated, a blade sheathed in politeness. The room tensed. Lucas started to respond, but Claire beat him to it. The same way anyone develops insight, Mr. Crawford, through observation, analysis, and the understanding that systems, whether managing a household budget or a multinational corporation, succeed or fail based on efficiency and adaptation. And your personal relationship with our CEO, he added with a pointed look, had no bearing on your rapid rise within the company? Before she could respond, her phone lit up. Madison's name. Claire's heart stopped. She never called during presentations unless— "Excuse me," Claire managed, stepping away from the podium. Family emergency. Ethan had fallen trying to show Lily a cartwheel. Possible broken arm. They were on the way to the emergency room. Claire barely remembered how she got out of the boardroom. Only that her heels echoed like gunshots in the corridor, and her breath caught somewhere between panic and guilt. The next few hours passed in a blur. The sterile hallways of the hospital, Ethan's tear-streaked face, the soft rustle of X-ray films confirming a clean break. The cold fluorescent lighting seemed to buzz louder with each minute, matching the static in her mind. Through it all, her phone buzzed with messages from Lucas, each more concerned than the last. She didn't read them right away. Her hands were too busy holding Ethan's, her mind too wrapped in the weight of being everything to everyone. "Is your son okay? Don't worry about the meeting." Crawford was out of line. At midnight, with Ethan finally asleep in his bed, his small arm wrapped in a bright blue cast, Claire sat on her back porch. The spring air carried a hint of warmth, a whisper of change, the kind of breeze that made you believe tomorrow could actually be different. Her laptop glowed with unread emails, follow-ups about the interrupted presentation, and a formal complaint from Richard Crawford for unprofessional conduct. Unprofessional? For choosing her son over a slideshow? She closed the laptop with a quiet snap, her jaw tightening. A soft knock on the front door startled her. Lucas stood there, his tie loosened, holding a brown paper bag. "I thought you might have missed dinner," he said quietly. "Hospital cafeteria food is terrible." A simple kindness shattered something inside her. Tears she'd been holding back all day spilled over, not dramatic, not heaving, just quiet, exhausted tears from someone too tired to pretend anymore. "Hey." Lucas set the food down and pulled her into a gentle hug. "Ethan will be fine. Kids bounce back." "It's not just that," Claire said, pulling away, wiping at her face. "Crawford was right. I'm in over my head. Trying to be a professional, a student, a mother. I'm failing at all of them. Look at me." Lucas's voice was steady, grounding. "You presented a brilliant analysis today. You're maintaining a 3.8 GPA. And you just spent 6 hours making sure your son got the care he needed. That's not failure, Claire. That's extraordinary." Their eyes met, and the air between them shifted. Lucas's hand still rested gently on her arm, his touch sending warmth through her skin. She hadn't realized how long it had been since someone touched her with care. Not out of obligation, not out of pity, but out of quiet admiration. "I should go," he said softly, but he didn't move. "Yes," she whispered, stepping closer. The kiss, when it came, felt inevitable. Gentle at first, then deeper, carrying months of unspoken feelings. Claire melted into it, letting herself feel, for once, seen, understood, wanted not just as a mother or a worker or a survivor, but as a woman. A car door slammed nearby, breaking the spell. They pulled apart, both slightly breathless. "I'm sorry," Lucas began. "I shouldn't have." "Don't," Claire touched his arm. "Don't apologize. But I need time. My kids, the job, my degree. It's all so precarious right now." Lucas nodded, understanding in his eyes. "I know. And Crawford? He's already pushing for an investigation into your hiring." "Let him." Claire straightened her shoulders. "I earned my place here. I won't let anyone make me doubt that again." After Lucas left, Claire checked on her sleeping children. Ethan's cast glowed faintly in the dark, already covered in doodles from her and Lily. Stars, dinosaurs, hearts. Love scribbled in color over a moment of pain. Such a small thing, a broken arm, but it underscored the tightrope she walked every single day. Her phone chimed, an email from Crawford demanding a full audit of her department's activities. Another chime, a message from Lucas. Don't worry, I'll handle Crawford. Claire closed both messages without replying. Tomorrow, she would face Crawford's challenges and the complicated feelings she was developing for Lucas, feelings that were growing deeper, more real, and harder to keep compartmentalized. But tonight, she just wanted to sit quietly with her sleeping children and remember why she started this journey. On her desk, a half-finished business law essay waited beside a framed photo of her kids, both of them laughing. That photo had been taken the summer before everything fell apart. Somehow, their joy had survived what her marriage hadn't. Next to that, her presentation notes, still marked with Lucas's hurried, handwritten encouragement in the margins. 3 different worlds, all colliding. Mother, professional, woman rediscovering herself. But for the first time since Jordan left, Claire felt strong enough to weather the storm. The autumn breeze carried a faint scent of wood smoke as Claire hurried across the University of Washington campus. Her business ethics midterm had run late, and she was already behind schedule for picking up the kids from their after-school activities. Her phone buzzed, a text from Lucas. Dinner tomorrow is set. Can't wait. 8 months into their carefully balanced relationship, they'd finally found a rhythm that worked. Quiet dinners after the kids were asleep, stolen moments between meetings, and the occasional weekend lunch with Lily and Ethan. The children had warmed to Lucas slowly, drawn to his calm presence and genuine interest in their lives. He never forced a bond, never bribed affection. He simply showed up, again and again. Just last weekend, he had spent 3 hours helping Ethan build a model rocket for science class, never once checking his phone or showing signs of boredom, not even when the instructions were upside down and the glue spilled twice. The memory made Claire smile, until she rounded the corner to Lily's dance studio and froze. Jordan stood by the entrance. He looked exactly as he had the day he left, except now new lines framed his eyes, and an unfamiliar uncertainty haunted his posture. The swagger was gone. In its place, something like regret or maybe just loneliness. Their daughter sat beside him on a bench, her face animated as she talked. "What are you doing here?" Claire's voice came out sharper than she intended. "This isn't your custody day. Daddy came to watch me dance." Lily beamed, oblivious to the tension between them. "Can he come for ice cream with us?" Jordan stood, his hands raised in a placating gesture. "I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd surprise her." "In the neighborhood?" Claire's laugh held no humor. "Your office is across town. And Isabel? She was due any day. She had the baby last week." His words hit like a physical blow. "A boy." He hesitated. "That's partly why I'm here. We need to talk, Claire." "Don't call me that," she snapped. The old nickname felt wrong now, tainted. Once it had made her feel chosen. Now it felt like theft. "Lily, honey, go grab your things. We need to pick up your brother." Once Lily disappeared back inside the studio, Claire turned to Jordan. "You can't just show up like this. We have a custody agreement for a reason." "I know, I'm sorry." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made her chest ache. It was muscle memory for both of them. Him apologizing, her absorbing the blow. But things have changed. "Isabel, she's not who I thought she was. The baby, all of it, I made a terrible mistake, Claire. I miss our family. I miss you." The words she had once longed to hear now tasted like ash. "You missed the convenience," she said coldly. "Someone managing your life while you destroyed ours. That's not fair. I'm trying to make things right." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I've been watching you with the kids, seeing how hard it's been. Let me help. Let me come home." That word, home, used to mean something sacred. Now it sounded like manipulation. "Home." The word caught in her throat. "You mean the home where I cried myself to sleep for months? Where our kids learned their father could walk out without a second thought?" She shook her head. That home doesn't exist anymore, Jordan. We don't exist anymore. Mom, look what Miss Lisa said about my pirouette. Lily burst out of the studio, report card in hand. The drive to Ethan's robotics club was excruciating. Lily chattered happily in the back seat, completely unaware of the tension. Jordan nodded and smiled, engaging easily, while Claire gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white. Her chest was tight, the entire ride filled with unspoken words she couldn't afford to release in front of the children. By the time they reached the science center, Jordan had somehow maneuvered an invitation to stay for dinner. Just to talk, he insisted. The kids deserve that much. Ethan's face lit up at the sight of his father, then fell when he noticed Lucas waiting by Claire's car. The hope on Ethan's face, the restraint on Lucas's, the guilt in her own chest, the collision of her past and present made Claire's head spin. Claire's head spun. I thought we were getting Chinese food? Ethan said, confusion clear in his voice. Lucas quickly assessed the situation, his expression carefully neutral. He didn't flinch, didn't posture, but Claire could see the flicker of realization in his eyes. This wasn't just dinner anymore. It was a line being drawn. I can come back another time. No. Claire's voice was firm. Jordan was just leaving, actually. Jordan's tone held a quiet challenge. I was invited to dinner. Family dinner. The emphasis wasn't subtle. The words dropped like bait, and Claire could feel the trap beneath them. Lily and Ethan looked between their parents, their earlier excitement replaced by visible uncertainty. Claire saw it in Lily's fingers fidgeting with the hem of her shirt, in Ethan's shifting eyes, unsure of where to land. Kids, Lucas said smoothly, why don't you show your dad your new science projects? Give your mom and me a minute to talk. Once they were alone, Lucas turned to Claire. Are you okay? No. She let out a shaky breath. He says he made a mistake, that he wants to come home. And what do you want? The question caught her off guard. In all the months of their relationship, Lucas had never pushed, never demanded, always letting her set the pace. But tonight, in the middle of emotional crossfire, he's still an anchor in chaos. But now, looking into his concerned eyes, the answer came clearly. I want. Her voice strengthened. I want to move forward, not backward. I want my children to see that happiness doesn't mean settling. I want. What do you want, Claire? The admission felt like freedom. I want you, Lucas. But your kids. My kids need stability, she agreed. He nodded slowly. And Jordan showing up like this, stirring up old hopes and hurts. That's not stability. Before she could respond, her phone rang. It buzzed sharply on the counter, cutting through the tension like glass. Richard Crawford. Lucas's voice was firm. Don't answer. He's been digging into your personal life, trying to use your divorce against you. Let him dig, Claire said, declining the call. I'm not ashamed of my past or my present. Her finger hovered for a second before tapping decline, a small act that felt like reclaiming something. The evening that followed tested every ounce of her strength. Jordan reminisced about old times while the children hung on his every word. The stories were sanitized, edited for charm. Claire recognized the manipulation buried in nostalgia. Lucas kept his distance, professional and calm, but never far, always within reach if she needed him. The weight of unspoken words and impossible choices hung in the air. Dinner had never felt so much like negotiation. After the kids were finally asleep, Jordan lingered in the kitchen. We could try again, he said softly. For them. For us. There is no us, Claire said, her voice quiet but unwavering. There's only who we used to be and who we are now. She paused. And who I am now, she continued. She doesn't need you anymore. Because of him? Jordan's voice sharpened, nodding toward the living room where Lucas sat waiting. You've known him, what? 8 months? We have 12 years of history. Exactly, Claire said, standing taller. History. What we had ended the moment you chose someone else. I've spent the past year rebuilding myself, Claire said, her voice unwavering. And I won't let you tear that down just because your new life didn't turn out the way you planned. The kids need their father, Jordan argued. They have their father on scheduled custody days, she replied calmly. Her tone was measured, but her spine was steel. What they need now is to see their mother happy, whole, and strong enough to choose her own path. After Jordan left, Claire found Lucas in the living room, pretending to work on his laptop. He closed it the moment she sat beside him. I should have warned you he was back, she said softly. You didn't owe me that, he replied, taking her hand. His thumb traced gentle circles on her palm. That simple motion calmed something stormy inside her, the way deep breaths settle waves. You don't owe anyone explanations for your choices, Claire. Not me, not Jordan, not Crawford. You've earned the right to decide your own future. She leaned into him, letting his steady presence hold her for a moment. The weight she'd been carrying all day melted, not because he took it from her, but because she finally let herself share it. Stay tonight, she whispered. Are you sure? The kids need to see that love can be gentle, respectful, chosen. She looked up at him. I'm choosing you, Lucas. If you'll have me. His kiss was answer enough. It wasn't passion that overwhelmed her. It was peace, and that, she realized, was far rarer. Later, as they lay tangled together in her bed, Claire thought about choices. The ones taken from her, the ones she'd given away, and the ones she was finally strong enough to make for herself. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Crawford's ongoing investigations, Jordan's attempts to reclaim the past, the constant juggling of work, school, and motherhood. But tonight, in Lucas's arms, Claire knew she'd chosen right. Her phone lit up with one final message from Jordan. This isn't over. She deleted it without responding. The notification disappeared, but the line it crossed had already been drawn. Some chapters needed to stay closed for new ones to begin. The reflection in the full-length mirror barely resembled the woman who had once crumbled in her foyer 18 months ago. Claire smoothed the midnight blue evening gown, a quiet smile playing at her lips as she remembered Lucas's reaction when she'd chosen it for tonight's charity gala. He hadn't said much, just stared, speechless, then whispered, "Damn." It was enough. The annual event was Anderson Enterprises' biggest night of the year, and as the newly promoted director of operations, she had a crucial role to play. "Mom, you look like a princess," Lily gasped from the doorway, already in her pajamas. Madison, their regular sitter, stood behind her with an amused smile. "Thank you, sweetie." Claire knelt down carefully, mindful of the dress. "Now remember, I'll be home late, but I'll come kiss you goodnight even if you're asleep. Will Lucas be there?" Ethan called from his room. "Yes," Claire answered, "but as my boss, not my date." That line had been discussed, drawn, and respected, especially now with enemies like Crawford watching for weakness. That distinction mattered, especially after Crawford's attempts to discredit her professionally. They had agreed to maintain strict boundaries at work-related events. Her phone buzzed, a text from Jordan. "Kids say you have a big speech tonight. Good luck." Their relationship had slowly evolved into something resembling civil co-parenting, especially after he'd finally accepted her refusal to reconcile. Claire no longer waited for him to change. She had changed without him. His new baby, Michael, had softened some of the sharp edges between them, though Isabel's occasional snide remarks still stung. The drive to the Seattle Grand Waterfront Hotel felt surreal. A year ago, Claire had been drowning in divorce proceedings, custody battles, and Crawford's investigations into her rapid rise at Anderson Enterprises. Now, she was preparing to present her department's revolutionary efficiency protocols to over 300 industry leaders. It wasn't just a presentation. It was a line drawn between who she had been and who she had become. Lucas waited in the hotel lobby, handsome in his tuxedo, but maintaining professional distance. Still her anchor, still her biggest believer, but tonight, respectfully her colleague. "Ready?" he asked. "Born ready," Claire replied, and this time, her confidence wasn't entirely pretend. It lived in her posture, her voice, her breath. It had been earned. The ballroom sparkled beneath crystal chandeliers. Seattle's elite moved about with practiced grace. Claire navigated the room with ease, answering questions about her department's successes, deflecting subtle inquiries about her relationship with the CEO. She'd learned how to carry herself like she belonged here, because she did. Crawford lurked at the edges of conversations, his efforts to undermine her having collapsed spectacularly when his own past misconduct came to light. He watched now with the cold calculation of a man who'd underestimated the wrong woman. "Ladies and gentlemen," the evening's host announced, "please welcome our Director of Operations, Claire Jensen." The spotlight found her as she stepped onto the stage. In the crowd, Lucas watched with quiet pride. Crawford's expression darkened. But neither man's reaction mattered as much as it once might have. Tonight, only her voice mattered. Her truth. Her rise. 18 months ago, she began, her voice steady. "I thought I'd lost everything. My marriage had imploded. My confidence was shattered. My future felt impossibly dark. I was someone's ex-wife, someone's mother, someone's employee. But I'd forgotten how to be myself." The room hushed, drawn in by her raw honesty. "What I didn't realize then," she continued, "was that sometimes we need to lose everything to discover what we're truly capable of building. Tonight isn't just about business protocols or efficiency metrics. It's about transformation of systems, of companies, and yes, of people. The courage to examine what isn't working, the strength to let go of familiar patterns, and the vision to build something better. Whether in business or in life, true success," Claire continued, "comes from believing in your own worth, even when others doubt you." Her gaze found Crawford in the crowd. She didn't blink, didn't flinch, just looked him square in the eyes, the same way she had looked at her own fears. "Some will try to diminish your achievements, suggest you didn't earn your place. To them I say, watch me rise, watch me succeed. Watch me prove that the greatest power lies not in tearing others down, but in lifting yourself up." The applause was thunderous. It wasn't just polite or expected. It was real. From peers, rivals, strangers, from people who had once doubted her and now stood to applaud. Later, during the dinner service, Crawford approached her table. "Impressive speech," he said, his tone carefully neutral. But Claire could hear the edge, the last grip of ego slipping. "I may have misjudged you." "No," Claire replied calmly. "You judged me exactly the way you intended. You just didn't expect me to be stronger than your judgment." He nodded stiffly, then retreated. The defeated pride in his eyes was all the closure she needed. Lucas passed by and gently squeezed her shoulder, a small gesture that spoke volumes about pride and love. He didn't need to say a word. She felt it in that single, grounding touch. As the evening wound down, Claire slipped out to the hotel's waterfront terrace. The Seattle skyline glittered across the bay, a quiet testament to everything that was possible, everything she'd built from the ashes. Lucas joined her, keeping a respectful distance despite the privacy. "The board was impressed," he said. "You've officially silenced the last of the doubters." "I didn't do it for them." Claire turned to face him. "I did it for the woman who thought her life was over 18 months ago. For my children who needed to see their mother stand tall. And for myself, the self I finally learned to value." Her voice didn't waver. It rang with clarity. Not pride, but peace. "I love you," Lucas said simply. "Not because you're strong, though you are. Not because you're successful, though you've earned every accolade. I love you because you're authentically, unapologetically yourself. Even when yourself is a mess of insecurities at 3 a.m. study sessions." He smiled. "Though I have to admit, watching you handle Crawford tonight, that was particularly attractive." Just then, a text interrupted their moment. Madison, sending a photo of Lily and Ethan fast asleep, still in their fancy clothes. Claire's heart softened instantly. Her two little lights, wrapped in blankets and innocence, waiting up in celebration. They'd insisted on dressing up to celebrate their mom's big night. "Go home," Lucas said gently. "Be with your children. We have all the time in the world." "We do," Claire agreed. "Because this time, I'm choosing this life. Not falling into it, not clinging to it out of fear or obligation, but choosing it completely and without reservation. The drive home was peaceful. Her speech notes were forgotten in her clutch. Through the window, she watched Seattle drift by the city where she'd lost herself, found herself, and finally learned to love herself. The city hadn't changed. She had. And now, every streetlight felt like a quiet witness to her rebirth. Her children slept just as Madison's photo had shown. Lily still in her party dress, Ethan in his little clip-on tie. Claire kissed them softly, breathing in the scent of childhood and innocence. This stillness, this closeness was the real success. In her home office, her diploma from the accelerated business program sat ready to be framed, alongside her recent promotion letter. Photos lined the walls now, not just of her children, but of her own accomplishments, her friendships, her new life, snapshots of a woman who had rebuilt not just her world, but herself. And on her desk sat a frame holding her gala speech notes, with Lucas's handwritten message in the margin. You never needed saving. You just needed to remember your own strength. Claire changed out of her gown and curled up in her favorite chair, the one that had held her through countless nights of tears and transformation. The fabric was worn, but it was hers, like the life she'd made imperfect, patched together, and stronger for it. Her phone lit up with messages from friends, a heart emoji from Lucas, and a simple text from Jordan. You've changed everything, including my understanding of strength. She smiled. No need to respond. Some closures speak louder in silence. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, balancing her growing career with motherhood, nurturing her relationship with Lucas while keeping professional lines clear, continuing to prove herself in the corporate world. But tonight, in the quiet of her home, surrounded by proof of the life she'd rebuilt, Claire Jensen finally felt complete. Not because of a man, not because of a job, not even because of a diploma, but because she had learned the greatest lesson. True strength isn't found in never falling. It's found in rising every time life knocks you down. She picked up her laptop, opening the document that held her next big project. The future stretched before her, full of possibilities she'd earned the right to choose. And this time, she was ready for whatever came next. Dear friend, if Claire's journey hit something deep in you, you're not alone. Maybe you felt that quiet unraveling, that moment when life no longer looks like the one you built, and you're left standing in the pieces. The truth is, most of us don't wake up one day knowing it's time to change. We feel it slowly through the silence, the ache, the restless tug that whispers, there's more than this. Claire's story reminds us of something powerful, that falling apart isn't the end. It's an invitation to rise. The Stoics said it best. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. She didn't wait to be saved. She remembered who she was, and she chose to begin again. You can too. So let me ask you, when was that moment for you? When did you realize it was time to reinvent yourself, not because life gave you permission, but because your soul demanded it? Was it a moment of heartbreak or an inner awakening? And what changed after you made that choice? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Really, your voice matters here. If this story stirred something in you, if it made you feel seen or gave you hope, please give it a like, share it with someone who might need it today, and subscribe so you don't miss the next story we bring to life. Thank you for being here, and wherever you are in your journey, remember, you always have the power to begin again.